Hey, I'm John from Red Story, and you're watching Create What Matters. This is a time where we get to talk about people that are making a positive impact and change in the community around them. You know, there's so much focus on what we shouldn't be doing that the positive good that people are making around the world gets lost. And so today we're going to be talking to Shabazz Larkin. He's the founder of Larkin Art and Company. So welcome to the show, Shabazz.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you having me on, John.
It's great to have you. I love that background. Looks good. Looking sharp. Hey, so can you tell us a little bit about? I've asked you earlier about who you are, but tell us more about what do you do?
Well, man, I don't know how to answer that question either. I do too many things, John.
I know you got a
Uh,
lot, but give me top of mind. What are you working on right now?
so so I'm an artist, and I've been sort of on this journey of figuring out how to use my art to inspire Black joy. I've been on this sort of journey for a while. Uh, as a person that kind of came up not seeing a lot of people like me making art, a lot of people like me sort of in television and media. I've kind of spent my career sort of advocating for the you know the proliferation of Black people in media, in art, and I'm doing sort of the same thing. And now I'm actually even pushes toward mindfulness and meditation, and sort of expanding what the common idea of what a person, the monolith of the person that sort of has a great and vital inner world. So that's sort of like at the crux of what I do is sort of like is really just empowering Black voices, Black ideas, Black concepts, in a way that the whole world can kind of see and appreciate.
Wow, that's great. Did you have like a could you pinpoint like a pinnacle moment where you really became more aware of this and that was something that you were um, really moved towards? Was there, yeah, a moment in time for you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'll share what we were talking about earlier. Um, there was this point after grad school. I went and I did this sort of trip to Kenya, and I was traveled through Nairobi, Angola, Rongai, Mombasa, and a few other places along the way. And it was so impactful because it was the first time in my life I was able to look around and see everyone was Black. The teachers were Black, the principals were Black, the bus drivers were Black, the president was Black, and that was so inspiring to me, that when I got back home, um, I very quickly began to paint images of Black people, unique of unique Black beauty. And I started by painting these pictures of afros, and so people with these like really intricate afros that kind of became like sculptures and things. And
Yep.
um that obviously the world has a funny trick of playing on you. You make these series about unique hair. It's called the Beauty Fro Project, and it was all about Black hair. And then I lose all my hair, so I got no more hair.
Yeah.
you know. But so that's sort of a funny experience. But like when I got back from that trip, I started painting those images. And because I thought that it was important to kind of paint pictures of Blackness that are often not seen. Some of my a good friend of mine in my life told me that when they were a kid they didn't even want to be Black, and that's perhaps because they didn't see any Black people that they could sort of admire. You know, like when I was a kid, the only images of Black people that you knew from the history books said that they were slaves. Television said that they were thugs and criminals. And my neighborhood probably showed them as sort of drug addicts and homeless people. Right. And so, like you just don't have any images of what a glorious sort of amazing, full Black life could look like. And so I became quickly obsessed with sort of painting other pictures that sort of expanded past this sort of kind of communal lie that we've been shown about our culture.
That's amazing. And as you've gone through this journey and through through creating these pieces of artwork, what have you seen? How have you seen this impact the people around you, the people in your community?
Well, that's a great question. It's important to me to not just paint. Like the only issue that I deal with is not just like, hey, Blackness. I think that as my work has evolved, it has become just about sort of like self-love. My work has evolved into self-care and sort of like learning how to love who you are, and your kind of self-image, and empowering and inspiring a beautiful self-image. So I paint pictures of Black people, but I also paint pictures of all kinds of people. And I remember the first time I painted one of my very early series with the Beautiful Project was these women that were sort of probably larger than most of the women that you see in paintings and on TV. And now it's sort of more of that's sort of more common now these days. But when I had first started, that was like not an image that you had seen on television or painted or places. And so I remember just women sort of coming to me with tears in their eyes. Thank you for painting me, for showing someone that looks like me in a posture of glory, and which I really can't take too much credit for that, because this sort of kind of came from my own experience. There's a guy, an artist, his name is Kehinde Wiley, and he takes people in street clothes from off the street, and he says, hey, come into my studio and pose like one of these Renaissance paintings. And he's the same guy that painted Barack Obama portrait. If you can remember that sort of the official one, he's in the leaves and stuff. And so that was so inspiring. I remember the first time I saw one of his paintings, I was in the Museum of Modern Art in Richmond, Virginia. And I looked up at this guy with a skull cap on and some sweatpants, kind of like what I'm wearing right now, and some Timberland boots. And he looked like every single person I went to high school with. He looked like the cool kids that I knew, right? And I just began weeping because I had never seen someone paint that person with glory. Like that person was always painted on the TV as a criminal, right? In my neighborhood, and even like older church people would say, oh, he needs to pick up his pants. He's dressing like a thug, so I began to weep to see that someone had painted someone that I admired, and someone that looked like me in a posture of greatness. And so when I started painting, I kind of took that same sort of posture of painting Black people in new ways that sort of inspired you and inspired us. I'm so excited by that, because in the same way, still people come up to me and they love the work that I do, because it's it just kind of resonates with the person that they always felt is inside but have never seen affirmed in any other way.
I mean that you talk about someone that inspires you. You know, you had the privilege to be able to work with that person. Can you just run us through briefly about that project that you did for President Obama?
Oh, President Obama. Yeah. So, yeah, I did get the opportunity to work with President Obama on a project when he left the White House. His very first project was a mentorship program called My Brother's Keeper, which is sort of a project that helps to sort of outline some of the unique issues that young men of color face.
Yeah.
And that was amazing opportunity to sort of like uh, to kind of like tell the story of what it feels like to be a young black man that's trying to sort of like make their way into the world.
Yeah.
There's a lot of conversation about color bias. And, right now the world is having a conversation because of the Black Lives Matter
Right.
movement.
Yeah.
Like the whole world is sort of like stood up and started having this conversation in a way that it's never had before, right? Like, so before, these are things that flash on the news, but now we see institutionally that people are being held to the fire. And I think that the whole world has started saying, hey, like, how have we been ignoring this? We thought
Right.
that this wasn't a problem anymore. But now we're all realizing, hey, it is. And maybe now is a great time to deal with it. And so, you
Absolutely.
know, these kind of conversations are being had all over the world.
So what do you think in relation to the artwork that you're creating, the message that you're communicating to people? We talked about this earlier about being able to with meditation. You know, you and I talked about this recently, and people really seeking after what's unique to them and being able to communicate that to other people. And we were talking before about how often people, if it's not gonna, the message that's spoken to us is you got to do something that changes the world, and it's like these big massive things, and we have these dreams that are inside of us, and we often don't do them because they seem so small and insignificant. But it's often the things that are really important to us that may seem small that do end up changing the world or changing culture. So what would
Yeah.
you say to the people that are watching this? What are
Yeah.
some I hate using the word advice, but what are some things that you would say to those people about pursuing what's important to them that could create change in their community around them?
Yeah, I think that what you're saying is what you're talking about gets at the mother of all art that's great, right? Like like when you sort of look around at your environment and you look at like, hey, what are the things in my immediate sphere of influence that I could take to sort of express what I'm feeling or what I'm going through or what I'm excited about, makes great art,
Yeah.
because those things begin to speak a language of your culture without you even trying to like meet some kind of binary idea of what your culture is, right? So
Right.
um, there's an artist who grew up, his mother was a hairstylist, and his initial art was just taking these papers that was used to sort of like do people's hair and make that into to like painting slash sculptures, right, out of this stuff. And for me, I kind of grew up as like when I was 15 years old, I started going to the church. Like I was a Christian person, and my community was church people.
Yeah.
And so like I always sort of discounted my experiences with the church because they were sort of looked down upon in the professional worlds that I walked in. As in my other life, I'm a creative director, director in advertising, and in
Yeah.
that those worlds, no one wants to talk about religion or faith or church. And so I always sort of tried to push that away and kind of box that into my own sort of personal space, not knowing that, hey, this is my community. This is
Right.
actually
Yeah.
a large part of who I am and my identity. And so so a great place for me to really to pour into as an artist is that space. And so we were talking earlier about the project that I am a part of called the God Speaks Project, right? Where I began writing down the things that people would say were about, when people would say, oh, I heard from God. Well, I started questioning, well, if you really think that God told you this thing, you think you would have written it down somewhere? I mean, if I really think that God is telling me something, I probably should put it in a book,
Yeah.
write it on the side of a wall or something. Like, if you really think that God is talking to you, like, it should be a bigger deal.
Right.
And it started bringing up all these questions about, like, who gets to write down what God says, and why is it that the people that canonize the Bible, why are they the only ones that get to be the authorities? Did God only speak 2,000 years ago? Like, if he's still speaking today, maybe we should start writing this stuff down. And this is me sort of like going in my own world, where I am right now, and what are the questions that I wrestle with in my own personal space.
Yep.
And so I started writing down. Every time I got in the Uber, I'd ask the Uber driver, hey, you ever heard God talk to you?
Okay.
And
Wow.
pretty
Okay,
much
yeah.
everybody said, yeah. Almost everybody.
Wow.
Almost every single Uber driver I asked
Yep.
had something to say. And I guess because they're like, well, I'm never going to see you again. I don't care. And I'm thinking I'm never going to see them again, so I don't care. I'll just ask them.
Right.
And almost everyone had something, and I would write everyone down.
That's
and,
so
and
cool.
on the street and with friends and with all kinds of people, I would ask the questions, and these amazing things that people would say to me. But in fact, this is actually one of my first books. I would write down all the things that people would say.
Wow.
And
yeah.
And I would just take them and sort of like rewrite them in different ways. You don't have to win every argument. You don't have to win every argument you're right about.
Wow.
My cool background.
There you go. Yeah.
Try losing arguments you could win. Beware the traps of ubiquitous assimilation set up by Instagram. Malcolm X was dope, but you are alive.
Wow, that's cool.
It's really powerful stuff.
Right.
It's just like, what? So I took them and I started writing them down in a little book, and then I took those and I started writing those down on big pieces of paper, and I'd posted it on Instagram. And then my friends would say, hey, could you send that to me? I need that. I needed to hear that. I need that. So then I started, okay.
So the very thing.
Pieces of paper.
So your friends are asking, can you send that to me? And it's the very thing that may have come from your Uber driver is what they needed to hear.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
I think you broke up a little bit in what you said, but yeah, essentially these things that weird random people were saying in one context, I sort of, rewrote them, and maybe took out like their name and took out some of their personal details, and and just kind of made it more proverbial like and more poetic, and but then just gave it back to people. And they're like, yeah, oh, I need that. I need to hear that. I need to hear that.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
And I think you broke up a little bit.
No, I think we're experiencing some technical difficulties. The Wi-Fi, whatever. We're good.
No, yeah.
Man.
So anyways, it's such a powerful thing. And it all sort of started with like what was in my house. Like what was in my like direct sort of influence, and I started writing them on just like pieces of paper around my house. if I took this stupid thing off my thing, I'd show you that they're all over my walls. You know, here's
Yeah.
another one. I, I don't think it's gonna. Oh, there it is.
There. Oh, there we
You
go.
know,
Yep.
just win today. That one. And so I started doing all these, and you know, like then I started writing them on bigger pieces of paper, and then I just started like taking them, putting them in the mail to friends, and
Wow, that's so
and
cool.
that's you know, and I've worked with other artists and collaborated, made holograms with them,
Wow.
it's sort of my street art. I go out, but I don't just do it without permission. I only
Yeah.
do it when somebody gives me permission, because you can't write God on the wall
Right.
and I give you permission. I think people start getting crazy. So God just vandalized my building.
That is amazing.
So, anyways,
That's
but that's example of sort of just starting like where I am, and I think that all really great art like really just kind of starts by looking at what do you have in your own sphere of influence.
yeah.
Like, what can I look around my house, my neighborhood? What can I do right here, my family, um, um, to create?
That's so inspiring. I'm inspired by that. That's really cool, man.
Good.
Well, hey, we're gonna wrap it up right there. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. We've been talking to Shabazz Larkin, and I'm John from Red Story. This is Create What Matters.
So thank
See
you
you
so
later.
much, John.
Take care,
All right, you
Shabazz.
guys stay inspired, stay in love, and remember to find your art. Whatever your art is, find your art, because your art is love, and everybody's got an art. Everybody, every living being on earth has an art that they have to bring to the world. If you're a nurse, your art is nursing. If you're a writer, your art is writing. John, you are a singer and a performer and a bunch of other stuff. That's your art. So stay in that. Keep doing this podcast. I love that you're doing this.
Thank you so
And
much.
peace.
Peace.